The first four, actually, it started because we had a little bit of an equipment issue in the first race, and they recovered really nicely. So what went right for the four was when we sent them out the second time, we had made sure that everything was correct, and then they went out and kind of had just raced and weren't worried about they just raced as opposed to, just threw it all on the table rather than worried about what place they were going to get. They just went rather than going out with over expectation. We had a couple people missing due to some out of weird spot injuries. I think we actually made pretty good progress in what we're trying to get out of our expansion from where we were a couple weeks ago. It's better than it was 2 weeks ago, and it's going to get better again this week. So I think, a couple freak injuries that knock people out for a week, those obviously play a part, because if it's two people in the 1V, that has a trickle-down effect because people have to move up. So every boat's a little bit slower than it should be. Otherwise, we're continuing to try different stuff because it's not going how we want it. So we are just going to the drawing board and making changes and rowing harder. Finals make it a little difficult. We don't actually end up having most of the team all together at the same time because we have to schedule around the finals. So kind of the 1V and 2V have been rowing in fours together, broke them up, get them a little more competition, been doing some switches, trying to kind of piece together the last bit of our lineups because we still just aren't quite where we need to be. Then we made the chain, and then with the four and the 3V8 coming in for this weekend, Dayton is preferring to row fours in the lower boats, so we're actually breaking our 3V into smaller boats. So there's going to be we're gonna have 5 fours this weekend so that everyone can get a race in this home race. Well, rowing more small boats gives you better competition inside of your own team. If you just take the 3V8 out, Dayton prefers to have a 2V4 and a 3V4. So we're accommodating them a little bit since they're coming to us and we want to race more boats. We're making some accommodations so that both of us kind of get the best of both worlds. But it also allows our, the 2V4 and the 3V4 more than likely are going to end up being the 3V8, some form of that. So they get to go out and have individual races and also races against their own team and their own teammates to see where they fall and then who can really show something to make the move up and maybe into the first four or even into the 2V at this point. It really comes down to a lot of its geography. It's a very easy trip for them to make. It's a one-day trip, so we don't have to worry about hotels and all the logistics. This year we actually talked and moved it back 30 minutes or 20 minutes so that they could leave a little bit later and make it a little bit easier of a trip. I think it's just having a good relationship with another team geographically, and there aren't that many mid-major teams in this area. If we want to do a one-day trip, our choices are Dayton, Michigan State, maybe Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Michigan. It doesn't really give us a lot of chance to go somewhere on a single day, no overnight trip, unless we're going to go race someone in the Big Ten, and their schedule typically at this point of the year is mostly larger races or triple, quadruple duels in the East Coast, or probably actually they've been going to Florida a lot.
So are there any challenges in hosting and setting up your own course?
Challenges are more just making sure you have all the logistics covered, making sure you have launches ready to go, everything's running, you have enough boats for everybody, or motor boats for everybody. We contract someone to put in the course, so the buoy line's in, but then we set up the start line and finish line the day of so that it's all ready to go, and it makes it a little bit, those logistics are difficult to do. Well, I'll say that. They're not difficult, you just have to make sure you get all of them done correctly, otherwise you struggle during the racing. It's a different stress. We're not trailering and worrying about food logistics at this food stop and whether everything's correct or whether, bus timing. So I'd say it's stressful, but it's a different stress, and I would say it's an easier, more manageable stress. We have more control in the situation, which for me, lowers the stress. Even if it's more work, I have more control, and it's easier to work through something rather than being at the whims of whatever company is catering that was 20 minutes late or forgot a salad or something along those lines. It looks like it's going to be rainy, and as of yesterday, about a 9-mile-an-hour tailwind. So it'll be a little bit choppy, but not anything crazy. The hope is we have the 9-mile-an-hour tailwind and we've got some rain, and the rain will it really knocks the chop down. So I'm actually one of the few people who's like, yay, bring on the rain. Because if it's going to be a little windy, I'd rather it rain and flatten everything out. And then you're just a little bit wet. But the temperature looks like it's going to be pretty decent. It's going to be low 60s. And just hoping that everything locks in so we can have 5 good races. I think it's more of a thank you. It's more of a thank you for the trust, thank you for buying into the program for 4 or 5 years at this point, and letting us be part of who you are going to be. Hopefully they learn good lessons from being with us and learn skills they can use in the future. But I think it's really I don't have any of the messages or wisdom I have has been given over the last 4 or 5 years. And I don't have any parting words except for thank you for the trust and for the buy-in and for continuing to push the program forward. And that's really all I've got for words of wisdom, I guess. I think it's with all the seniors. It's great to see their development as not just athletes, but as people, going from being young and some of them having lots of opinions and some of them having no opinions, seeing their transformation as athletes, seeing their transformation as people, as students. You're always sad to see them go, but also that it's the next part of why they came here. You don't go pro in rowing. You go pro in something else, and I just hope that the lessons learned from rowing carry over to them being successful in their next step. I think we need to continue to make progress. We made progress in how we're racing, particularly in the 1V last week. I think we saw where we were letting off or a little bit weak or not as focused, and we need to make progress. We've got, at this point, 2.5 weeks left. If we want to finish where we finished last year, we've got a lot of work still to do, and the time might be running out, but we're going to keep swinging for it. So I think we need to see another step towards the right direction. We raced Dayton last weekend. If we don't have the ability to beat them, we need to close the gap by another good chunk from the previous year or previous races. We go into our carryover period and we kind of run, I would say, a camp. It's, the nice part is we don't have any classes, we don't have any restrictions, we don't have anything that is distracting us from what we're trying to do, which is go and race hard. So we've got 2 weeks to put the pedal down and all go, while also trying to manage a taper. So it's running a really thin line of how much we're going to do next week and then how much we can taper out of it. So yeah, it's an interesting place.